thought I was going crazy. I was in this dark tunnel, and my husband had gone on to be with the light, wherever that was, but I was in a fog. And then there was the financial stuff. Oh yeah, me. Reasonably smart woman, I got a Ph.D., I'm a certified financial planner, and I'm freaking about the money. And you might say that for just a little bit, I was feeling like a bag lady myself, which is not uncommon for new widows. But I also began realizing, what about my widowed sisters who don't have my background, my experience, my level of expertise? That was the point that I started the transition of spending more time working with widows. It led to the publication of this book, Moving Forward on Your Own. 70% of widows typically fire the advisor that they use together with their husband after the husband dies. Wow, yeah, what's up with that? What's going on? It might be like Anne, who came to visit me after her husband died. And she told me, yeah, we were working with this advisor, and he called me and said that there was some paperwork that I needed to sign after Henry died. And I went into the office. I'd hardly been there before. He started talking about how I was beating the market, and he had all these quarterly color reports that I never understood them before, and I certainly didn't understand them then. And I didn't care about that stuff. I just wanted to know, was I going to be okay? Did I have enough money? Was I going to have to move out of my house? Could I still help my granddaughter with her college education? Was I going to have to go back to work? Could I still give to my church? And he didn't talk about any of that. In fact, he called my husband my deceased spouse. He didn't even say his name. And I started crying in his office, and then he really didn't know what to do. And he said, don't worry your pretty little head. We're going to take care of everything for you. And that did it for me, Kathleen. And I just got up and left. I didn't sign that paperwork. And he called me the next day, and I told him I had a hair appointment. And when a widow experiences grief, she can feel a lot of different emotions. Denial. I can't believe he's never going to walk through that front door again. Identity. Who am I that I'm not Mrs. Jim Jones? I've always been Mrs. Jim Jones. Anger. Darn it all, Tom, why did you have to die? We had everything going for us, a perfect retirement. We were doing things with the grandkids. We were traveling. Oh my gosh. Am I crazy? I'm angry at a dead man. Overwhelmed. This is the hardest thing I have ever done in my entire life. So why am I talking to you about all this stress and emotion stuff? Well, it relates to how widows think. But for a widow in early grief, memory can be short, attention span weak, and decision making just downright difficult. And you've seen women like this who've come to you, the high-level executive who can't read her brokerage statement, or the math teacher who suddenly can't balance her checkbook. So what is it that widows really need and want from you? Well, I maintain that in part it depends on where they are in their grief journey. The first stage, which is the grief, very heavy grief, and that's a time when a widow might use the word, I just feel numb. The kinds of things that you're going to do with her are really financial triage. Only the kinds of things that really have to be taken care of right away. And you're not going to make any big decisions that are irrevocable. People ask, how long does it take to get from grief to growth? It all depends. And every widow's journey is unique. And even though I'm a widow myself, I don't pretend to say to a widow, oh, I know exactly where you're at, because I don't. Underlying all of the stages of a widow is a desire to be financially secure. And whether it's spoken or not, that is going to be on one of the top of the list of the things that matter to them if they're coming to you, no matter what stage that they're in. A friend of mine called and said that her husband had died. We knew he was in decline. She said, the house is too big for us. I'm meeting with a realtor on Monday. And I said, oh, this is a terrible time to sell. The market is so low. Where are you going to go? Her adult son had invited her to come and move in with him. Is this the son where you don't get along with the daughter-in-law so well? Yeah, right. Is this the son who lives in Texas? Yeah, but they've talked. It's going to be okay. What about your medical providers? What about a branch of your church? No, everybody there is Baptist. They still believe in Jesus, so it's going to be fine. We talked some more, and she said, okay, I see. I'll wait. I won't meet with the realtor on Monday. Fast forward to today, what she did decide to do, she sold the house in a year's worth of time. She didn't move to Texas, which was because her son doesn't live in Texas anymore. He's in Silicon Valley. He took a job and moved elsewhere. So she would have had a double move to contend with. She would have had double grief dealing with her husband's death and the death, and these moves, the death really of her community. Phyllis came to me and didn't have a clue. They had stuff hither, thither, and yon. That was her husband's way of diversifying. And I put together a net worth statement with subtotals, and we got to the point where it was $750,000. And she said, yeah, that's about what we were worth. And I said, there's more, Phyllis. Oh, there can't be more. We were not that kind of people. And we kept going, and she was worth $2 million. Didn't have a clue. And that's not uncommon. All right, listen more and talk less. Use her husband's name. We do not want our spouse's names forgotten. That safety and security, that spoken or not, that is going to be one of her main fears. Am I going to be okay? Encourage her to take time not to move on big decisions. Avoid cliches. And think of anything that begins with, well, at least you had 19 good years together. No, I wanted 25, I wanted 30. Or the very, very common phrase is, oh, I'm so sorry for your loss. It's on your own feelings. It's not on her feelings. So skip the cliches. You are going to become her thinking partner. It was her husband before, but he is gone. You're the one that she's interacting with now. With a widow, it's not about efficiency and early grief at all. You're going to slow things down, actually. But that's going to pay off in spades for you, because when a widow really understands that you get where she's at, she trusts you, she understands, she will be a client with you for life, and she's going to also tell her widowed girlfriends about you too. So maybe it's asking more open-ended questions. Maybe it's thinking about writing an article. Maybe it's giving the book. Maybe it's sending a card and telling a widow how great she's doing and that you think her husband would really be proud of where she's at in her journey. But just pick one thing, at least, to do when you go back to your office. So thank you very much.